I've got more new Andor footage for you today. This is a new TV spot called Do or Die, and there are some very cool new shots, so let's break this down together. We start with Andor in the TIE Avenger, and I now think this is the scene where he's flying over the top of the Imperial transport, the one that we see him blow up in the first trailer. We can see we have Imperial army soldiers and a stormtrooper in the back of the transport. We're back on the aggro planet and we can see these two residents popping out their door. And in the next shot we see Bix and Wilmon, and I think they're looking up at the Imperial Gazonti cruiser landing that we saw in the previous trailer. New shot now of what looks like Imperial security troopers. They're deploying. Are they deploying to the aggro world, or maybe they're deploying to Gorman? A couple of clips from the situation on Gorman. If you're interested in what's happening here, I've made a whole video about it. I'll leave a link to it in the description. This clip again of Andor in his Sinar Systems test pilot uniform. Still no idea of who the lady is he's talking to. Here's another shot of Saw's partisans looking over what appears to be this town or Imperial installation, and I've had a new idea on this. I wonder if this could tie into the shot we've seen of Vel and Sartha sabotaging that runaway piece of equipment. Here's the younger version of Saw with one of the two Tubes brothers. We've talked about this shot before of the Cavern Angels and the possibly but possibly not Zagarian freighter. A new shot of Syril and Gorman, and someone walks past him with a firework. Now we know where a lot of the sparks and smoke are coming from in that scene. Some brief and dark clips of this back alleyway we've seen before. I've taken the liberty of brightening this up and we can see the two characters with the transport going past. Is this Syril? Maybe Claire? And is this Gorman at night, or is this the world that perhaps Saw is attacking? Some really interesting new scenes now of what looks like a resistance cell. Judging by the way they're dressed, you think this is Gorman again? And I said in my Gorman Massacre video, I thought Tony Gilroy was building us up for the shock that the so-called peaceful protest on Gorman wasn't quite so peaceful. Not only can we see these protesters arming up with weapons, but this next scene appears to see them making a bomb. Another very brief news section of Andor walking along the corridors of the Sinar Systems lab before he steals the TIE fighter. And another familiar scene with Krennic smirking as he looks out this window. Another shot of Mothma in the Senate, but something I noticed here on zooming in is you can tell that almost all of these pods seem full. That's odd because I'm sure you remember from season 1 of Andor, the Senate was almost always close to empty. And if we look really tightly at the central podium, this doesn't appear to be Palpatine to me. Do you think this is Palpatine, or do you think this is someone else? If so, who do you think it is? Another new shot of Andor. In this one he appears to be pulling this odd corkscrew shaped blade out of this wooden handle. Is this the device that Luthen carries around with him? And in the next shot we see Andor looking very miserable with a split lip looking at the blade. Could this scene be after Luthen's death? Perhaps the producers are subtly trying to tell us something here, because the very next scene is Luthen walking down these steps. And that's followed by this shot of Claire wearing a store attendant outfit. What do you think? Do you think they've intentionally made the connection between the knife and Luthen there? This shot of the security troopers again on Gorman. Another very brief and dark clip from this street section. Once again I've brightened it up. Sadly you can't really see very much. Somebody jumps off of a building and lands on this vehicle. But with this brightened up we can see the street very clearly and the street lamps. We can tell this is the same street we saw what we think maybe is Vel and that runaway vehicle in the earlier trailers. Another brief shot of explosions on Gorman and Andor taking cover. And then we get to see this great new sequence. It's very brief, in fact so brief that almost every frame is blurry. This is the only stable one I could find. But we can see a security droid, this might even be K himself, and he's pulling somebody off of this speeder bike. What do you think? Do you think this is K? And then finally we get a shot of Luthen and Andor we've seen before. So that wraps this one up. Don't forget to smash that like button before you go. Jump down in the comments and let me know what you thought about this one. I'll leave that Gorman Massacre video here for you to click on next. As always, massive thank you for watching one of my videos. And don't forget, look to the Force and you will always find me.